You can start. And please unmute your microphone. Unmute yourself. Great.
International Internship University, IIU, is a leading virtual education system and global brand confederation, which is the most valuable and trusted worldwide and well-reputed in delivering innovative programs. Globally, it is a trusted name for quality training programs and is committed to providing better and virtual education to all the young learners of the globe. In a short span of time, IIU has spread its wings in 195 countries and 6 continents under the strong leadership of its visionary founder, Mr. Piyush Pandit, a committed and inspiring social activist, a passionate educationist from the last 2 decades, providing education to students from various social and cultural backgrounds. I, Kieran Lightbourne, take the privilege to be a resource person for the training session by the Training, Learning and Development Department of the International Internship University. I am the founder of KT Lightbourne and Impactful Conversations. I offer corporate trainings, goal coaching, and purposeful speaking. My focus is on the development and advancement of teams by placing emphasis on individuality and its impact on the collective goals. My companies also offer on-site creation of programs and systems to improve efficiency and effectiveness of the operation and those responsible for execution. Greetings again. Firstly, thank you for this opportunity. I am so humbled to be in front of you today. We will have an impactful and engaging conversation. I will demonstrate to you the art and importance of communication and leadership in building strong team dynamics. Team building through communication and leadership. I want you to say out there, I am ready. I am ready. This quote has given me so much insight as I began building teams throughout my plethora of moving through industries. Coming together is the beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. Penned by Henry Ford. Now, before we get deep into our conversation, we must look at the 2 important components. 2 critical components of building a team. Firstly, effective communication. This has been said to be the process of exchanging ideas, thoughts, opinions, knowledge, and data so that the message is received and understood with clarity and purpose. Leadership is the action of leading a group of people or an organization. So for me, how do I break this down to make it easier to remember? Effective communication is what we say. Leadership is what we do. Both must be approached and handled with intentionality. One will not work without the other. Our actions must align with the words, with our words, to add value and credibility. This is how influence is nurtured. I could remember that there was a team member that I was reprimanding and I had slated for a demotion. During the process, I realized that my words and my actions were not the same. I encouraged growth and positive mindset, which included allowing people to develop themselves. However, this particular member, I did not give the opportunity to. I realized my error and course corrected. But what if I did not realize my error? Remember, once your leadership has been compromised, trust will be lost and your impact will be ineffective. I want you to think, can you remember a similar situation that you would have experienced where words and actions did not relate? Either you were the receiver or you were the sender. I want you to keep that thought in your mind as we go through this training. Even better yet, you know what they say, it's always better to write it down. So I challenge you, write it down. And we start with our first phase. I consider this the most critical phase in building your team. It's the alignment. During the alignment process, the dots are connected. What do you believe is the first dot in the process? Think about it. I'll answer it by asking you this question. Who is the most important person on this team? On your team? On any team? I'm sure you guessed it right. You are. Without you, there would be no team. I want to ask another question. Knowing how important we are, knowing how important you are, how do we treat ourselves? What do you believe are the two most vital conversations for you in the morning? For me, it's saying thank you for life and the one that I have with myself. I have realized that we have to speak at times to hear ourselves. Have you ever had to hype yourself up to join a meeting? I know the struggles. I would like you to think of 3 affirmations. Affirmations are words that we use to speak into existence. It's an encouragement or support that we pour into ourselves and others. So I want you to think of 3. And if you took my challenge earlier, where I told you to write it down, I challenge you further to write down 3. For me, it's I love myself as I am. Happiness is a choice. And it's okay to not be okay. This speaks to you that there is power in what we say and what we do. We can set the tone of our day by how we start. Let us remember to speak these words daily. And if you must, twice a day. Because sometimes we do have a day, those type of days. But remember, we can only serve those around us to the level we serve ourselves. So the question is asked, why are we here? And we're taking this from a team aspect. You're in a team, you're grouped together, you're having a meeting, and you're sitting down, looking at each other. And the question I'm sure poses through our heads, why are we here? What is my role? What is my purpose? How do I contribute to achieving the goals? What benefits are there for me? I'm sure occasionally you ask yourself these questions. Trust me, those in your team are asking the same questions. However, they might not be privy to the big picture like you are. It is your responsibility to ensure that they can answer these questions for themselves. This is where leaders differ from managers. See, managers manage processes, whereas there are just positions and duties to be carried out. Leaders lead people. Well, there are positions, but those positions are held by actual individuals, humans, just like me and you. So now I'm going to challenge you a little further. I want you to imagine what success looks like for you in your career. That same paper that you were writing down when I challenged you, take a portion of that. And I would like for you to draw what success looks like for you in your career. And then, whatever it may be, I want you on the side of it, draw what success looks like for you in life. What do you want to achieve or accomplish? And this is very important to understanding why you are here. And as I stated, imagine that those who sit with you in your team have the same questions. So I want you to challenge them with that same question. What is it that you would like to achieve? What is success for you? Okay, now that we have conditioned our minds and aligned our ambitions individually, I know that you still have a question. How does this impact who we are on the team? There is a saying that goes, no man is an island. We need others to help us achieve our missions in life, both professionally and personally. Imagine that the most successful person, the most wealthiest person in the world, to even that, to those who we may consider some of the most poorest or persons who we would think that have a hard lick at life or having hardship at life, did not get there by themselves. There was a team that was a part of it. The value of teamwork is priceless. But what are the values of working together? So I want to ask, who watched 300? Okay, I could see some of you, yes, some of you wondering what is 300, and then some of you, you know what 300 is. So I'm going to ask, for those who know 300, what is the first thing that comes to mind? I'm listening. I see the movements. Yes, the war cry. Ahu, ahu, ahu. Spartans were considered one of the greatest assemblies of a team of warriors. They fought for the common goal. And if you know the history, look at what teamwork allowed them to accomplish. My favorite part of this movie was when Leonidas was leading his team of 300 to go and fight Xerxes. And he came upon another grouping of persons. And he asked them, what is your profession? Because the other grouping were like, you're not serious as Spartans. Xerxes command millions and it's just 300 of you. But Leonidas had to remind him, hey, what do you do? One person said that they were a potter. The next one, a blacksmith. The next one, a poet. And when he asked his team, Spartans, what is your profession? And they all responded with a resounding, Haru, 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 meaning that we all are of one accord. We all are warriors. So this was able to impart from Leonidas to the other gathering that this is what we do. This is what teamwork brings. So then I get to this point, the value of alignment. Teamwork connects visions and missions and brings together like-minded people to achieve a common aim. This is achieved when learning transforms into understanding. That's when we birth alignment. And when we speak about learning, we speak about learning when it comes to the visions and missions of the organization, that of the team, that of each individual person. And how do we create, or how do we create, I should say, the understanding of how all of the dots are getting connected? Is it starting to make sense to you now? The most powerful question that you have ever asked, or that someone has ever asked you, is guess what? No, that's not the question. The question is why? Yes, why is the question. Why gives you the purpose, your purpose. Everyone that is in this room, on this call, on Facebook, wherever you are, we all come from different backgrounds, different upbringings, communities, and the list can go on. Regardless of the contrast, we are all here to achieve a common goal. For me, I am a part of a nonprofit organization named Rotary. Our motto is fellowship through service, service above self. What stands out to me is the pursuit of serving, being a part of something bigger than ourselves. This requires us to be the best us while bettering us. And I want to repeat that. This requires us to be the best us while bettering us. This means even when we are there to serve each other. And if we succeed, the organization succeeds. The awareness came, when we had to learn from each other and adapt. Because as I state, connected visions, missions, when it comes to us individually, as a team, as an organization. Everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. And this is why awareness is very important, because this is how we learn from each other and learn how to work with each other. We have to rely on each other to succeed. But all of that is a part of the alignment. And we are no different than any of you, any team that you are part of. A grouping of different personalities and characteristics to adjust and adapt. But this is why we had to start by first understanding that you are the most important person in the team. Because learning who you are as an individual, who they are as your teammates, and relying on each other to succeed. That is our equation. So what is the vision and mission of your organization? Do you know it? It's a good question. Let me break it down a bit. What is the vision for your team? Now we're getting to it. Because these questions give you, what is your why? What is the purpose? What is our purpose? Remember the questions we asked earlier? Why are we here? And all of this starts to connect the dots through alignment. So we move on and we now look at reliability. I want you to picture this in your mind. Scenario. You have a target deadline to meet. You, as the team lead, are tasked with providing directions to a driver to deliver a product. Who do you think is the most important person in that equation? The person who gives the instructions or the person who receives the instructions? Ponder that for a second. What happens if one fails to perform their responsibility properly? How much impact do you think effective communication will play in the success of meeting that target deadline? Do you think both persons have an opportunity to show leadership? Think about it. Better yet, write it down. And this is the value of reliability. Teamwork develops mutual respect. Members are equally important regardless of who gives the instruction and who receives the instruction. If one fails, the team fails. This demonstrates to the members that they are equally important regardless of who gives the instruction and who receives the instruction. And this is something that especially I put out to those in leadership positions, supervisors, managers, team leads, anybody that has impact or influence over a group of persons. This is where accountability comes in. I am sure there exist challenges in your everyday tasks. I'll tell you, there was a time that I was joining the Royal Bahamas Police Force, which is our local arm of police to protect and serve. And we were in training. It was 30 males, all in one dorm room, and we didn't know each other, never interacted with each other. So now you had so much different personalities, upbringings, persons from different communities, those from impoverished backgrounds and those from more affluential backgrounds. But I could always remember this one incident where we had one particular cadet, our recruit, who was a part of our team, and he could not march for nothing. I mean, he would try his best. Normally when you march, as your left foot goes forward, your right hand goes forward and your left hand goes back. I will tell you that that normally would sound like a natural movement for persons, but for him, it was not. We don't know yet how he did it, where his left foot and his right hand would go forward at the same time. And if you want to really see the awkwardness of it, stand up and try it. Stand up and try it. Probably stand up and try it right now. And you will see that it's kind of awkward because even when you naturally walk, you do not walk like that. Nevertheless, because he had a problem of getting it right, who do you think felt the punishment? Yeah, you're right. We did. As a team, as a cohort, we felt the punishment because for every time he could not get it right, we did push-ups. We did 50 push-ups at least 3 times a day. So at this point, we just got tired of it. What we did is late at nights, after we would have already prepared for the next day, we would go and we would practice with him marching. We did this for 3 months consistently. As we were going through the process, we realized that he was getting better and it was more natural. He was an overthinker and he thought too hard about it. So we had to understand where his strengths were. And believe it or not, his strength was the willingness to want to do better. And then we had to understand his weakness, which at that point was the overthinking. So we found ways to take his mind off of thinking about it. And slowly and surely, he was able to march. Yes, he was able to march, but not after we would have already done some, estimating some 2,000 push-ups. Even at times we had to run miles, but we stuck by it. We stuck by him. We were reliable to him. We held ourselves accountable and we held him accountable because we had the respect. We created a mutual respect, and this was done through just relationship. You remember the alignment? This was developed just through the alignment. Why? Because we wanted to get through training. And we knew that this is one of the ways to help him. So I would like for you to think of somebody within your team that needs that, just that little bit of help. Rather than circumventing them, find ways to help them. Because I always say to myself that persons want to do better. A lot of them just do not know how. And just like us, sometimes we require that outside help, that view to help us push forward. So with this, we continue to respect each other and work through them, work through all of our challenges and difficulties. This allowed us to stay resilient in our team efforts. As leaders, we must be able to give feedback, and most importantly, to receive it. I know it is hard to be criticized, but look at it as a tool for growth and improvement. And I go back to my story that I gave earlier when I spoke about your actions aligning with your words. Because this speaks heavy to me, especially at this time, because I had an employee who answers to me. And because we have developed the relationship, the alignment, and him understanding what my vision was, and that I expressed it and communicated it clearly, that he was able to come back to me and say, "Sir, what you stated and the actions you showed are not the same." And I was open to that feedback. I could have responded with pure being defensive, but I was very open to it. And this allowed me to course correct so that that the relationship is not deteriorated and that my leadership effectiveness would have not been deteriorated. I would tell you that just going through that process of error helped the relationship to grow even further. And this is something that I cherish. And this is something that you should seek also. So what does this lead to? Everything, as we start to speak about it, now leads to transparency. And I do it like this because I want you to know that out of all, how we start and how we finish are just important. I know sometimes they say it's not all about how you start, it's how you finish, but no, how you start is the momentum. Imagine that transparency is just as critical as your alignment, because your transparency is where your values are shown, where your values are exhibited and highlighted. For example, one of my core values is I will never say anything about anyone behind their back that I did not already say to their face. This keeps me accountable of my words and my actions all the time. This has really been strong within what I consider my strongest team, my greatest team. Yes, that of my family. I've been married for 15, happily married. Let me make sure I put it out there. I've been happily married for 15 years. 2 kids, a rambunctious son, and a very inquisitive daughter. But because everything that I say to them, I have to be very mindful of it. Because they follow me wherever I go. When I speak, wherever I speak to different organizations, sometimes during my trainings, or part of different voluntary work that I do. And even at times they have accompanied me to work. So when I say to them, or I act to them, towards them at home, they are watching to see, how does daddy react? Or how does my husband react or respond to me, to the kids, and even to those outside, to my staff members, to my other team members of different organizations, to my friends. And this is so important because everything should always be aligned. Who you are in one place will not differ from who you are somewhere else. You are who you are, but you must be confident in who you are. And this is why being transparency helps that. Keeping you accountable to your words and your actions. The value of transparency. Your actions and words must marry. This is supported with fairness and honesty. The key to this is treating everyone the way you want to be treated. Now, I want to put something there before I go forward. This does not, you have to remember that persons' norms are different. So a person who grew up in a family or grew up in an environment where they highlight the use of profanity and obscenities and abuse, that is their norm. It might not be your norm, but it's their norm. So even in sometimes we have to be very careful with this. We have to be careful on how we treat people. Because as I state, we want to make sure that we treat people the same way that we would like to be treated. And how do we do this? We keep consistent and intentional with our actions. And that's why I have that fairness plus honesty plus consistency equals transparency. Just for an additional tidbit, because this is a question that I have asked a lot by a lot of my clients. How do you break a stigma? Through transparency. Because a stigma was created because of the actions or because of your words and your actions, actually. So now that if you want to change that stigma, you have to put in the same amount of work and intentionality to achieve this new view or the new version of you that you would like persons to see. So you have to continue to be consistent. It will take time. And remember that this is all a process. Every process has a process. Let's look at just getting up in the morning. Getting up in the morning to get ready to go to work. Or for some of us, either we go to a brick and mortar, which is a building, or we just get up and get in the front of a screen. But first and foremost, you have to get up. You have to open your eyes. And then you have to choose to sit up. Or some just choose and lay down, maybe check social media. For others, they choose to just meditate. And then you have to go, and there's the process of bathing. That's another process. And then getting dressed, which is another process. So keep in mind that processes have processes, but we must be patient with ourselves. And I'll tell you, being transparent seems easy, but it's one of the most difficult things to do, because we have to just always be mindful. So at that time, when you want to be different or outside of who you are, that's when you have to be able to pull yourself back. And change is something that is always hard to maneuver. Through my journey of different companies and cultures, I have learned that the environment was cultivated by consistent actions of particular values. I tell my staff that I promise them a comfortable environment designed for personal growth and development, which I call a safe space. But oh, we will work hard. Yes, the work will be hard. And it's how I support it that is the leadership behind it. They are aware that my perception of them is created by our interactions and not the opinion of others. Because a lot of times we come into a team and persons have that inclination to give you a report on every member. And what we must do is refrain from digesting. You can listen, but do not digest too heavily. And why I say this is because you are taking the opinion from someone else's perception, which may not be truly the experience. So what I do is I handle each situation with the same level of urgency, regardless of who the complainant or defendant is. You remember we talk about mutual respect? That's a part of it. Because I want them to see me for who I am. So I do not like if someone goes and tell them, oh, this is who he is. They believe it. And when I try now to impart my vision or to set the vision and to impart knowledge and to help with development, it's going to be met with some level of resistance because an opinion and a conclusion has already been met even before I've interacted with them. So imagine that on the flip, on the vice versa, where you now have already created an opinion or a conclusion from someone else's opinion or perspective. Persons appreciate when you deal with them for who they are, when you interact with them for who they are, when you communicate with them in the language that which they understood. This goes to a saying that I know, paraphrasing, that if you want to speak to a man, you speak to their mind. But if you want to speak to their heart, you speak it in their language. And that has proved to be very powerful. All members, irrespective of their position, are held by the same standard. But I hold my leaders just a little bit higher because it is expected of them to set the course. Just another tidbit. Every place of employment that I have been either promoted or just given the opportunity to lead the team, the first thing that I do is I clean the bathroom. I clean the bathroom for 1 full week. Just being introduced as the manager, I don't look at the operation. I interact with persons very minimally, but I clean the bathrooms. Because what I show them is that I'm never going to ask you to do something that I'm not willing to do. And even though it takes time for them to get it, it's appreciated at the end. Because now when I go to interact, to impart the vision, to impart the knowledge, to help the development, they are more receptive because they see us now more almost on the same level. They respect my office and position, but they are more attracted to the human side of me, the side of me that wants them to do better. So I could remember there was a situation, and please don't laugh at me. I had a supervisor that came to me and said, "Sir, I cannot discipline my people for coming late because they are saying to me that the manager, who is me, and other supervisors are coming late." I said, "Okay, I will have it fixed." Went at it. When it was intentional, waking up extremely early, then what happened? I went to work on time for 1 week, just 1 week. Shortly after that, I went right back. Remember, I told you, change sometimes is hard because our body, our muscle memory, sometimes overpower the mind, especially when it's an action it's not used to. So now I have another supervisor that comes to me, not knowing what the first supervisor said to me, and reiterated the same concern. Understanding that me being the leader and knowing that because I was committing these acts, I did not jump on the other supervisors or persons that were committing these breaches. In a forum, what I do is once a week, I have what is considered our roll call, where we come together, we pray together, and then I give them any knowledge of what's going on in the company, what's happening within our department, what our goals are, what are the consequences and the impact of not meeting it or meeting it. And also just, some development talks, some motivational talks. But during this time, I felt, I wouldn't say empowered, but I'd say I felt that it was my responsibility to address this issue that was brought to me by my supervisors. So I stood in the middle of my staff, my grouping, and I told them that I had given myself a warning. Yes, I know who writes up themselves, who disciplines themselves, right? But I do, because this is a part of me sharing my vision, my vision of we are going to treat everyone fair. We are going to be honest, and this shows the consistency, which helps to be transparent. Yes, that's what I did. Well, I come to find out that I couldn't write up myself, and a supervisor could not have written me up because of their level. So I went to our human resources officer and told her, I asked, well, pretty much I almost instructed that I be written up for being late. And to add to that, that if any of my staff comes to human resources to verify or to validate that I did say this or did do this, I told them to please share it with them. I know. Who does it? I do. But now I want to ask you, are you willing to go that far? See, because it's these steps that really helps to build the team. Remember, your alignment is important, but the transparency is really what gives you that impact. Alignment gives you the purpose. The transparency really continues to drive the how. Remember. So, as I state, they fully aware that that's why I treat them. And I would never put on them the same things unless I would also put it on myself. Because we have to lead. We have to lead from the front. And even though this is the final T of the art. So we have ARTT. We have alignment, right? You remember? Don't forget the alignment. We have the reliability. we have the transparency, and we have the teamwork. But for teamwork, even though we would have touched on it, and it would have different meanings for persons, I want to take the teamwork and emphasize the celebration of the small wins together. Learning and growing is the priceless gift you have earned. See, we have to remember that teamwork is rewarding. Celebrate the small gifts, because there are going to be times where we hit those milestones. Celebrate them, celebrate it in public, make a big event out of it. Every month I have different awards for the best in category and the most improved. And it's come to find out that just even that small recognition, where I post their picture up on a wall, I call their name out amongst their peers, that small recognition has given them even a little more. For those that were not interested, a little more that they started to give. See, we must refrain from being distracted and keep our eyes on the prize. When the vision gets blurry, take a step back, reevaluate, and realign. The knowledge you have gained cannot be taken from you. The critical point is what are you going to do with it? You are responsible for your actions and your response, no one else's. The beautiful thing about teamwork is teamwork really thrives when there is structure. And structure does this for me. It shows me that there are 3 people that exist within my team. Those that are hungry, those that are going to just come to work and give you just their fair share. They're not going to do nothing more, nothing less. What you pay them, they're giving you that value, and that's it. And then you have those that are below the line. And when I say below the line, we mean below the line. You want to ensure that the two groups of people that are on your team are those that are hungry and those that are giving you the fair share, because that even there is where consistency comes in. Those that are below the line, you want to work towards developing them, helping them individually, because as you help the man, the woman to become a better person, then the organization, the team automatically reaps the rewards. A goal is only a vision until you add the how and when. With the art of team building, a goal is only a vision. I say it again. The goal is only a vision until you add the how and the when. Your how is to keep pushing together with care, respect, and trust. Remember the transparency. Your when is now. But one thing I never want you to forget is your why. The why is the purpose. Your why is why you are here, why they are here. And it all has to connect for them individually, because even you want to know, what am I going to get out of this? They want to know the same. So let us recap. The most important person in the team is you. An important conversation is the one with yourself. Say your daily affirmations. Write them down, stick them in the car, stick them on the wall, stick them someplace so that you could look at it. And I even challenge you to go further and write down your why. You remember those drawings I asked you to draw? What success looks like for you in your career and what success looks like for you in life. And put that up there. And I'll promise you that I'm sure that they align, because one is going to help you achieve the other, and vice versa. Teamwork aligns the mission, vision, and mindset individually and collectively. Respect and accountability produces reliability. Be fair, be honest, be consistent, be transparent. Celebrate your small wins together. Yes, celebrate big events, ceremonies, but celebrate the small wins, because the small wins are just as important as the big wins. Communication is what we say. Leadership is what we do. But through all of that, even if you're not a team lead and you practice the art of team building, you will realize that you do not need a title to be a leader. Some of the most influential people in their peak were not holder of titles. They just were they were aligning the goals and missions of what we want to achieve with each individual, and showed how it connects collectively. Persons could have relied on them because they showed respect and they were accountable, and because they were transparent, meaning that they were fair, they were honest, they were consistent, because what they say and what they do were always the same, wherever they were. So you do not need a title to be a leader. So I would like to say thank you. Thank you very much for being here and doing this training with me. And you can reach me at my email, which is k.t.lightbourne@gmail.com. You could find me and search me at LinkedIn, Kron Lightbourne. It's K''RON Lightbourne. And on Facebook, KT Lightbourne. Thank you very much.